Okay, Hare Krishna. Um, kind of, this group here is like the all-star listeners. So I think I'm just going to get in the verse. I don't even really have to go back. And on Sundays, I'll kind of put it again in context. So I think we could just go and relish the verses. Okay, Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, Book 2, Chapter 2, Text 83. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tatrāthāpy avasaṁ teṣāṁ prabhāva-bhara-darśanāt. Guru-vāg-gauravād dṛṣṭa phalatvāc cātyajañ japam. Nonetheless, I stayed there for some time, attracted by the display of great power, out of respect for my guru's order, and because I had seen how effective my mantra was, I kept on chanting. Purport. The atmosphere of Tapaloka weakened Gopkumar's resolve to see the Lord, but he persevered in chanting his japa. His guru had ordered him never to stop chanting, and Gopkumar did not want to be ungrateful by disobeying. Om Jnana Timurandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chaksuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasade Gaura Bhakta Brinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So greetings from New Jersey. So this is the Gopkumar. He's now on Tapalok. He was on Mahalok, and then the four Kumaras came. And he's looking for the Lord of the universe. I'm not, quite sure what he's recognizing in all these forms of God, but he's definitely not realizing his relationship with those forms of God. And I sometimes give the example, a person in a different setting, you may not recognize them. Let's say you had a very intimate friend and now he's the president, and and you see him after so many years and you know him in that intimate way, and now you may see his great power or something. In other words, you won't recognize him or in that way. So something's going on here. But he's definitely a seeker. That's important. Spiritual life is based on being a seeker. We have to want the best. And our faith is in what we think is the best. And of course, the most unfortunate thing is if we have the wrong faith. We think something's the best when it's actually the opposite. But anyway, he went to Tapaloka. Everyone was worshiping the four Kumaras, so he thought that they're higher beings. They must have a higher worship. But he's going to run into a dilemma here because they're tapasvis, shantaras, and their revelation of God is within the heart. But it was also attractive because it was so peaceful. And there was so much power in their practice. But again, guru-vāg, out of respect, dṛṣṭa, phalatvāc, seeing the fruit, the effectiveness, then cātyajañ japam, he wouldn't abandon his mantra. So we see this kind of simple faith, trust by experience, dṛṣṭa, phalatvāc, having seen, having experienced. And he was so grateful because he got something from his guru. So he was so grateful. And I saw that sometimes, that culture in India, sometimes in ISKCON, especially, some gurus deviated and they left or something. The last people that would give them up were always the Indians. I had a friend of mine he was an IIT graduate, the highest school in the world. Family sent him to America to earn money. He wound up working for Burroughs Adding Corporation in Detroit. And he went to the temple and he became a devotee and he got initiated. And, he became the treasurer. Later, he became a great Sanskrit scholar with his own institute. But when the person was Jayatirtha, and who was the guru there, and then he kind of left, he didn't jump ship so quickly. And the Westerners didn't like it. Because it's that gratefulness, dṛṣṭa phalatvāc. Snanam svabhava jachitta prasadanandatodikam tena sampajamanena sadidriksha vivartata. Thanks to the blissful peace in the heart that the nature of that place inspired, I chanted my mantra more attentively than before. Thus, my desire to see the Lord actually increased. Purport. At first, the refined atmosphere of Tapaloka seemed to affect Gopkumar negatively. The pervasive mood of self-satisfaction seemed to reduce his desire to have the company of the Supreme Lord. But that same peace of mind, characteristic of Tapaloka, gradually helped him improve his chanting, and then the mantra exerted its own influence. As ghee poured on a fire seems momentarily to extinguish the fire, but then gives it new life, the atmosphere of Tapaloka only decreased Gopkumar's desire, only briefly decreased Gopkumar's desire to see the Lord of the universe. So again, we're seeing environment, That's why it says in Sadhu Sanga, the three things are not just more advanced, but also like-minded and relationship. So you want not just advanced, but like-minded. And same thing with the place. Not just a great place, but a place that's commensurate with the objectives that you have. So it's definitely a spiritual place, and the spiritual place is the mode of goodness, and the mode of goodness clarifies the mind. It gives a certain type of peace. But the objective of bhakti is not peace. Peace comes, but our objective is devotion. And sometimes peace can become a very negative connotation. I just want to be away from everything. These forms, these relationships, these colors, this everything, this world of variety, which has caused me so much anxiety. I want peace, which means just to negate this. So that type of effect was on his consciousness. Peace was so beautiful. But at the same time, that platform of goodness is the platform by which one can transcend. So he kept that mantra, and the mantra became more and more prominent in his consciousness. And therefore, his desire to see the Lord actually increased. Sudha nilachale raja jagannatha didikshaya yayasum tattva samlaksha bravin mam pipalayana. The sage Pipalayana noticed that I eagerly desired to go to Nilachala to see Lord Jagannath, who lives there always resplendent. The sage then spoke to me, because he couldn't see God anywhere here, because it was in people's hearts. So Jagannath is consistent. It always comes up. Whenever he's dealing with a different type of manifestation of God that, goes, visits some other place within the heart, he then hankers, well, let me go to Puri because Jagannath is always there. Purport: the thoughts of returning to Jagannath Puri kept resurfing in Gopkumar's house, first in Swaga, because Upendra kept on leaving, then in Mahaloka, because Yogeshwara wasn't always manifest, and now here on Tapaloka, where it's in people's heart. For Jagannath did not manifest himself on the planets of the demigods and sages. Pipalayana Rishi, the middle son of the 9 self-realized souls of Lord Rishabhadev, observed Gopkumar wandering aimlessly, a sad, discouraged look on his face. Sri Pipalayan was practically omniscient, so he can easily understand the symptoms of Gopkumar's distraction. There's actually a very amazing experiment with autistic children that's been duplicated. I forgot what that's called. Maybe I can find what that's called. One second. Let me see if I can find what that's called. I can't now. But the basis of that experiment was they had autistic children, and they had a controlled experiment with their parents, usually their mother, where they put the child in another room. And the mother would write down some thoughts, some question. And then they would ask the child in the other room, and they could write something or draw something. I spoke to Brahmatirtha Prabhu about this, about something the BI should research when they're studying consciousness. But somehow or other, it was confirmed. And these were very strict scientific experiments. And it was mind-blowing to people. So it's not surprising that people in Rishi or great sages could be practically omniscient. What to speak, and this is something else, there's a book by a writer, kind of a sociologist called Malcolm Gladwell. He wrote a book called Blink. I told this many times. He studied what I call telepathy tapes. Thank you, Yvette. It's called the telepathy tapes, yes. Okay, let me get back to where we are. Symptoms. Oh yes, this Malcolm Gladwell in his book called Blink, and I told this many times, he did research on what I call unconscious competence, and I like that term because I use that in terms of public speaking and understanding how limited notes should be, because you got to come to this platform where the mind works faster than when you're conscious. And anybody who's doing some activity that they're familiar with knows this experience. And I know this when I'm speaking. And I know this when I'm having difficulty speaking. So, yeah, they did experiment, and they had these scientists that studied 365 muscles on the face where they can read emotions, and it makes so much sense. They said, take a situation comedy, Friends. That was after my time in that world, but I've never really seen it. But he said, take something like that and shut off the sound, and you can understand so much what's going on just by the people's faces. There are certain muscles, certain movements that have certain expressions. So there's no wonder that Pippalayan Rishi, he spoke to him, he noticed, he understood. Shri Pipalayana Uvacha, Idam Mahat Padam Hitva Katamanya Yayasasi Katamba Brahmasi Dṛṣṭum Drigbhyam Tam Parameshwaram. Pipalayana said, why do you want to leave this exalted place for another? And why are you wandering around to see the Lord with your eyes? Purport. In Pipalayana's opinion, the attempt to see the Supreme Lord with one's eyes is useless because the Lord is imperceptible to the material senses. Tapaloka is the planet of the greatest masters of yoga who have completely controlled their sex urge, and happiness enjoyed on Tapaloka is millions times greater than that of the Prajapatis. Where else could Gopkumar want to give? So this Pipalayana Rishi, he's very compassionate, and Gopkumar, universally attractive, simplicity in heart, honesty in heart, attractive to everyone. So Gopkumar is a very attractive person, and he invokes affection. I know I'm studying in my other class a very important point I'm going to write upon, that where it's described that Prahlad Krishna says, is even more dear to me than my own brother Balaram and the goddess of fortune. And in the purport, it mentions something like this. I'm going to kind of find it because it's such a powerful statement. One reason why the Supreme Lord speaks like this, although his eternal associates, Sankarsana, which is Balaram, Mahalakshmi, and so on, are ever established in unswerving devotion, they underwent no tribulation to gain it, whereas his, quote, new devotees in the material world have sacrificed all comforts and security to gain pure devotional service. For the trouble such devotees have taken, Lord Krishna is especially grateful. And in a commentary in the 11th canto, where this verse is actually from, that was from Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, it says, from Madhvacharya, he says, the Lord gives preference to a helpless devotee who depends completely on his mercy. That's what I'm going to write about. It's such an interesting point. So Gop Kumar has that kind of quality, and it draws out compassion. When someone is in need and humble, it draws out compassion. And it's really the qualities that we need to develop to attract the mercy of Guru, Sri Guru and Gauranga. Samadasva manasviyam tato draksyasi tam swata savatra bahir antascha sada sakshari stitam. You should concentrate your mind in meditation. Then you will automatically see the Lord everywhere, within and without, as if always before you in person. Purport, Gopakumar might ask why he shouldn't go where he can directly see the Supreme Lord, but Pipalayana advises him instead to focus his attention within. When one fully cultivates meditation and reaches the stage of samadhi, the form of the Lord will manifest itself on its own strength, without one's separate endeavor, just as a person's face appears in a clean mirror. If Gokumar follows the recommended yoga process, he will see the Supreme within without, or at least seemingly so, sakshad eva. Since in fact the Supreme cannot be viewed with the external eyes, there is no use wandering around to find him. He's going to argue that the Lord cannot be viewed with the external eyes. And when you read this section, it's very interesting. It appears that this is the conclusion. It's going to be argued here. And I'm studying every day with His Holiness Dhanurdhara Swami. And he was saying, no, the form of the Lord, you can see him. And then he showed me later on where that point is presented. But right now it's going to be presented that you can't possibly see the Lord externally. Anyway, you'll hear the arguments. Paramatma Vasudeva Satchit Ananda Vigraha Natantam Shodate Chitte Sparat Yesha Nachanyata. Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Soul, the embodiment of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, reveals himself in a thoroughly purified heart and nowhere else. Purport. Sri Vasudeva, the presiding Lord of consciousness, reveals himself only within the chitta, the heart, the subtle seat of awareness, more subtle than the mind. This is mentioned by Lord Shiva in the fourth canto of Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta 4.3.23. Sattvam Visuddham Vasudeva Shabditam Yariyate Tatra Puman Apavrata Sattve Chitasmin Bhagavan Vasudevo Yadoksajo Me Namasa Vihiyate. The state of pure consciousness, Krishna consciousness, in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead is revealed with no covering, is called Vasudeva. In that pure state, I always offer obeisances to him, the Supreme Godhead known as Vasudeva, who is beyond the material senses. When one's consciousness is completely pure, meaning that it reflects nothing but the Supreme, then and only then does Lord Vasudeva reveal himself within the heart. Because he is the personal essence of the Supreme Truth, self-manifesting and indivisible, the external senses cannot perceive him. The external senses cannot perceive him. There's some other point coming later on, but we do know that Chaito Darpanam Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Chaito, the chitta, the heart, Chaito Darpanam, like a mirror or a lens, Marjanam has to be cleaned. Otherwise, what you perceive becomes distorted. So the mind has to be pure to actually perceive something properly. And, it's my own kind of categories, but I've gleaned it that I gave 5 factors of perception: attention, the senses, central perception, attentiveness, understanding, attitude, and mercy. But definitely without the purified consciousness, one cannot see. And what about attitude? Just the fact of Maya, not this, means due to our attitude, we are in illusion. Due to our attitude, we don't see what's there because we don't want to perceive it. I always use the term that my mother used. I don't know if it's a common term, but I wouldn't do my chores and my mother would keep on telling me, and I'm doing it. And she would describe the term as mother deaf. You don't perceive or hear or see often what you don't want to see. And it's very, very powerful. That's the whole idea of Daivi, Esha, Gunamayi, Mama Maya, Darataya, Mayametam Tarantete, Mayametam, Daivi, Esha, Gunamayi, Mama Maya, Daratyate, Daivi, Esha, Gunamayi, Mama Maya, Daratyate, Mameva Ye Papadyante. Okay, I have to look this up. I'm sorry. I'm forgetting so much lately, it's scary almost. Daivyesha gunamayi mama maya darateya mameviye prabhajante mayameva tarantite. That whole principle is illusion follows desire. And I always make this point, when you desire something which you cannot attain within reality, it can only be achieved with an illusion. and it's very strong. And I tell this story. Those of you who've been many, many years know that when I grew up, there was one David Siegel. He was very obese and very short, and somehow or other he wanted to be on the basketball team. And he would practice and practice and practice, and he didn't make it. And then one day, I remember it as clear as day, walking down Seaview Avenue, on the other side of the street, on 101st Street, in the middle of the winter, there was David Siegel with a New York Knicks shirt and shorts, holding a basketball. And we went up to him, and he was telling us how many points he scored the previous day. He said, I ate him up. 25 points. He couldn't attain that. And it caused illusion. He attained an illusion. That's the whole concept in the material world. When you want to be the enjoyer and controller and have that sense of ultimate superiority, it is crushed by reality. And therefore we can't see reality, which is God's energy, Maya. But it's not this. What we're seeing is not this. It's not separate from God. It's all God's energy. And therefore, when someone becomes Krishna conscious, Prabhupada said he is thrilled. He is thrilled at every moment. Because in the pure state, seeing means feeling. When you see the person you love, you feel the person you love. You feel the energy of rasa, the mellow between you. So, God reveals himself, well, of course, in a purified heart. Nayam loka naham prakasya sarvasya yoga maya samavrita. I am not manifest to the unintelligent. Tadanim chamano vrityan tarabhavat susiddhyati cetasa kalu yad satshat chakshushar darshanam hari. Then, with nothing else going in the mind, direct vision of Lord Hari with one eyes takes place in the heart. Well, obviously, in one sense, perception takes place in the heart, in the consciousness. But does that mean that we don't perceive what's outside, even if it takes place in the consciousness? With nothing else going on in the mind. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranayate malay apashyat purusham purnam maya chitara pastayam vyasadev. Bhakti yogena manasi, controlling the mind in devotion. Samyak pranayate malay, that which is dirty. Samyak pranayate malay. When all that's dirty is gone, then a pashat purim, then you can see. Tadina nim, at that time, when the manavritti, chitta vritti, the manavritti, antara, abhavat, when it's not there, when nothing else is going on in the mind, then susiddhati, you become completely realized, sakshat, chakshusha, darshanam, hari, and then you see God in the heart. Purport, here Pipalayana anticipates Gopkumar's doubt. Is the meditation Pipalayana is describing as valid as direct perception with one's eyes? Pipalayana argues, is describing as valid as is the meditation Pipalayana is describing as valid as direct perception with one's eyes. Pipalayana argues here that when one seems to be seeing Lord He with one's eyes, the source of that perception is actually one's heart. Only after the mind puts aside all other objects of perception does the Lord reveal Himself in the heart. It is the mind that then performs the work of visualizing the Lord. Although the perceiver does not consciously analyze, I am seeing the personality of God, and not with my eyes, but my mind. According to Pipalayana, one's realization of the Supreme Lord becomes vividly concrete, lucidity by the power of the mind, not the eyes, which with their limited scope can neither comprehend the limbs of the Lord all at once, nor fully recognize His enchanting beauty. I told you, in my discussions with Dhanurdhara Swami, who studied the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta especially, there's another argument, how it is the eyes that see the Lord. But we'll get to that later. Manasu kenta bhavati sarvendriya sukham svata tadvritish api vakchakshu shrutya dindriya vrittaya. When the mind is happy, all the senses are automatically happy, for the functions of speech, vision, hearing, and the other senses are included within the functions of the mind. I'll read that again. When the mind is happy, all the senses are automatically happy, for the functions of speech, vision, hearing, and the other senses are included within the functions of the mind. Like when you're hearing the holy name, when you're inattentive, the vibration is in the air, but are you hearing it? I gave that experiment, that gorilla experiment, and I told you how people couldn't see the person dressed in the gorilla because they were concentrating on another task. So it shows that perception ultimately has to take place in the mind. Purport: Gopkumar might prefer the tangible pleasure of seeing with his eyes to the abstract enjoyment of the mind. But here, Pipalayana tells him that happiness of the mind extends not only to the eyes, but to all one's senses. Indeed, when the mind is distressed, the senses will surely not perceive happiness, because the senses will not even be invoked to contact their objects. I guess that's depression. It's true. One is depressed in the mind. There's no enjoyment with the senses. The correlation between happiness of the mind and happiness for the senses is natural and automatic, since all the senses are rooted in the mind. Just as branches and leaves of a tree are nourished when the tree is watered at the root, when the mind is satisfied, so too are the senses, with no need to make separate efforts. Still, Gopkumar might say that what the mind does when one remembers falls short of what the organs like those of speech and vision do when, for example, one chants and sees. In other words, don't the senses, being many in variety, enjoy greater pleasure than the mind? Pipalayana answers that the functions of all the senses are included in the functions of the mind. Chanting the Lord's name, seeing the deity, and all other sensory activities are made possible by the actions of the mind. This is a little technical, but we'll follow it. Manovritim vinasarve indrayanam vritai pala. Manovritam vinasarve driyanam vritayo phala. Kritapi ha kriteva syad atmanyanu palabdita. Without the functions of the mind, the function of all the senses are useless. For even if one acts, one's deeds will be as if never performed, because the self will be unable to perceive them. Well, I think that's obvious. Without the mind, we don't perceive. I gave that example. It's called the art of distraction. Name is Apollo Robbins. And Apollo Robbins is the world's greatest pickpocket. You can look him up. It's very interesting how he's able to get people from the audience and pick their pockets without them perceiving, or even without anybody in the audience perceiving. And he gave like a diagram of the mind, and there's a box which is the memory, and there's a person sitting in the front, control panels, and there's like speakers coming out of the eyes and lenses out of the ears and lenses coming out of the eyes. And he showed that's what pickpocket means, that you can only perceive what the mind, when the mind puts their consciousness on a particular sense. I don't need to explain that. I've given many examples before. So I think this is the mind is so essential in perception. Let's do one or two more verses. We'll read the purport. The same point is re-argued here, but by negative logic. When the mind is inattentive, the senses may be active, but they cannot establish real contact with their objects. I love when I explain something and then it's confirmed in the purport. Each sense has its own proper object, form for the sense of sight, texture for touch, and so on. The purpose of the senses is achieved when they contact their objects and perception occurs. Perception, however, requires the active participation of two other agents as well, the mind and the living soul. If the mind is not focused on a sense, receiving input from an object, no sensation will reach the self, and no conscious perception will arise. I mean, this is so important for japa meditation, that we can't let that little person in our head that's directing consciousness, go back to the memory and daydream, because then even though the sound will be coming in the ears, you won't hear it. This explanation from everyday life anyone can understand. By extension, Pippalayyana argues, one seeing the personality of God is in reality the Lord manifesting himself through the function of one's purified consciousness. It is not direct perception through the eyes, because the Supreme Lord stands outside the scope of the activity of the senses. There's another opinion coming later. That's all I can tell you. One more. Kadachid bhakta vatsalyad yati che dṛṣṭyatam dṛṣo jnanam dṛṣṭyaiva tajjatam abhimana param dṛṣo. If the Lord, out of compassion for his devotees, sometimes reveals himself to their eyes, that vision actually occurs by the power of the mind. One only imagines the eyes to be the seer. Purport, but didn't devotees like Dhruva and Prahlad see the Supreme Personality of Godhead with their eyes? Aren't those devotees famous for having seen the Lord in person? Yes, the Lord made himself visible to those great devotees out of fatherly affection to fulfill the purpose of their eyes. But in fact, Pippalayyana says, the devotees beheld those revelations through pure consciousness, not through the physical eyes. Because the scope of our physical sight is narrow. With our eyes, we are unable to perceive an object that has no limits. Why then are Dhruva, Prahlad, and others famous for having had the Lord's darshan? And why is he famous as Bhakta Vatsal, he who shows affection for his devotees? It's because in each case, the devotee, the jiva soul, identifying with his senses, presumed, I am seeing the Lord directly with my eyes. That those devotees thought that way is evidence that the personality of God was kind to them, and that the sense of sight fails to perceive what is beyond its scope. And that the sense of sight fails to perceive what is beyond its scope does not mean that the eyes are utterly useless. Okay, I have to give Gail an opportunity to ask questions.
Hare Krishna.
Gail, are you there?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay, I have to turn up my volume and put on my hearing aids. Okay, Gail.
Yeah, so actually, all along I've been wanting to ask about this very point about the fact that, like you said, Dhanurdhara Swami said, no, it's basically not true that you can't.
He didn't say it. He read from previous things because I'm saying no. This is the fact. It says it. Pipalayana is saying that as a fact. The purports are saying it as a fact. And then it went on, and then he found the references. I'll have him send them, and I'll read them the next time, and then we'll try to reconcile them.
Yeah, the only thing I could come up with was, which doesn't really answer it, but, deities, right?
Yeah.
We can see deities with our eyes. But even then, right, we won't necessarily really be seeing Krishna unless he...
It's such a reciprocation. Like I'm reading the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. I think it's earlier. I get so confused. But okay, I forgot my point. Somehow it slipped my mind.
Yeah, so what we are going to learn later is how it's possible for the material eyes to see Krishna. Is that
Yeah. When I bring you the purport, we'll try to reconcile it. That's all I can say. But the point I was going to make, I remember now, is when Lord Chaitanya was seeing Jagannath. Sometimes he was seeing Brajendranandana Krishna, and he was absorbed in that mood. And then when the lady climbed on his back, and his servant, said to the lady, it's improper. Lord Chaitanya became very angry with Govinda. He said, this lady has arti, she has greed. Jagannath Vishta, she's absorbed in Jagannath, she's most fortunate. But then he felt, oh my God, now I'm just seeing Jagannath in Dwarka, where is Vrindavan? So there's definitely a reciprocation. That's why I'm saying, but it's a reciprocation with any person. Mercy of the person is required to perceive the person.
Wait, I'm not really clear how this particular story is related. The fact that lady, she climbed out of her greed, she climbed on top of Lord Chaitanya to see Lord
What I'm saying, it's related because Lord Chaitanya was seeing the deity as different things. So obvious it couldn't just be the eyes, because the eyes would see the same thing. But he was seeing different things. And what I was mentioning, in a person, the vision of a person is very, very much to see their personality. And that's only revealed in the relationship you have with that person. So I'm just giving that example, how it's a fact in that way the eyes are not enough.
But Lord Chaitanya was seeing different things. What different things he was seeing?
He was seeing Brajendranandana Krishna, and then he was seeing Krishna in Dwarka, and he was looking at
Mhm.
the same deity. And then he said, Kahan Vrindavan, where is Vrindavan? He was seeing the cowherd boy, then he was seeing the king.
Oh, oh.
Okay?
Okay. Yeah. Also, just one other thing, Maharaj, was we say that the Gopkumar, he was losing his resolve to see the Lord because of having attained some level of peace. But then that was just going to be temporary because it is the peaceful situation that kind of facilitates his able to again focus on the
The
Lord.
mode of goodness has can have two, like Narada Muni, he became attached to the mode of goodness.
Mm-hmm.
He became attached to peacefulness rather than service.
Yes.
And then he said, you will not see me because of this material taint.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing but obviously for meditation, that peacefulness could enhance one's service. One could
Yes.
actually meditate more deeply.
Mm-hmm. So it depends on how you approach the peace. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We don't want peace. We want bhakti. Bhakti is not peace. Okay.
Thank
Any,
you so much, Maharaj.
okay, good. I had more time because I didn't give the introduction. So maybe on Wednesday, this is a better format. Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Raj.
Jamuna Jaya.
Um,
Yes.
Hare Krishna. It's so funny. The thing that I like the best is what you just pulled out is that peace comes, but it's not what we seek. We see something higher than that. And I thought it was interesting. One of the first things you said was spiritual life is based on us being a seeker. And so the whole class is about how to see and that we won't see and that we can't see, but it's all about trying to. And when you said that to really see someone is to feel them, I found that was really profound. It's like when
Well, that's prema.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the priyojana is love.
yeah, so
Is
beautiful.
just yeah. Okay. Thanks. All
Thank you,
right.
Raj.
You're off to your bhakti center.
Yeah, later today, the days I get to spend during the day home, and then in the evening I'll go.
Okay. Well. Okay. Good. It's good. What a life. What a life of devotion. Great. Good. And getting ready for Radhastami at the Bhakti
Yeah,
Center.
yeah, yeah,
Who's going
yeah.
to
The
speak?
ladies, Rasanath is going to speak,
Who?
and Rasanath,
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, he's going to speak, and all the crew that does the decorations, they make it the Pearl Festival. It's just, I mean,
Uh,
I'm not.
they're going to do the Pearl Festival.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not artistic, so I don't get involved with that stuff. But it always looks so beautiful, so beautiful.
They'll do the Pearl pastime again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they'll have the pearls that people can write and make. Everyone can make an offering to
Yeah,
Radharani.
that all started in kind of the Renaissance period of the Bhakti Center. Now it's coming back
Yeah,
when we were applying our intelligence and making all these festivals and engaging people. It's going to be
yeah.
wonderful there, and you'll represent me, and you
Yeah.
can do service for Radha Muralidhar. But we will also have a nice festival. The talk will be excellent,
As will the food, I imagine.
and the food. Maybe, I don't know, our kirtans will be good too. But anyway, well, you let me know how it is afterwards. Okay. Anybody else
Yeah.
want to say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Where are you?
In my neighborhood, you see people chanting. It's nice here. You come
Oh,
out in the morning and you always see somebody chanting.
okay, that's Alachua, huh?
Yeah, this is here where Henry lives and I live, and that's Radhakesh down there with his wife walking and chanting. It's so sweet here.
Okay, okay. And you're on vacation or you're working
No,
offline?
I'm working. We work the month of August from home, so I work remote. for the whole month, and I'll be driving back to Jersey on Saturday.
Krishna is so merciful to you. And
Okay.
doesn't
It's so,
your son live in the neighborhood too?
yeah, Andrew lives in La Crosse, so I'm literally to the right side of the temple, 8 minutes, and he's 8 minutes on the other direction of the temple.
Krishna, oh, look at this.
Yeah, I
I
really
read
appreciate it.
today, Krishna is merciful, not when he does what we desire, but when he does what's right for us. But when
Yes,
we
that is true.
desire is right for us, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, it is. Um, Definitely. I feel nice. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's not reality, but I'm happy.
Come on, we all, we suffer,
We suffer. We suffer more than we're happy, I think. But yeah,
yes,
I'm happy. And
okay.
I hopefully get to see Henry either today or tomorrow or Friday, like in the next 3 days.
Oh,
I
that's
haven't been
nice.
able to get a hold of him. He's a busy guy, but he called me the other day, so hopefully I get to see him, and then I go back to Jersey.
Wait, will you be there on Sunday for our program?
I told Subhadra that I might be driving by you guys at that time on my way back, so I'll stop in quickly and then
Okay,
get back in the car and go because I have Georgia and Ginkgo, my son's cat. So
okay. Okay. If it is, okay. Anybody else
hopefully,
like to say hello?
Maharaj, I just have to jump in and tell you that a super soul experience just happened. Krishna's mercy is not him giving us what we want, is him doing what's best for us. I just said that the same things verbatim to my brother in an imaginary conversation with him. And so just minutes after that, you said the exact same thing. So
Gail,
that was
Gail, you didn't know we were connected by Super Soul.
but it's always fresh.
Takes you what, 40 years to figure this out? What are you surprised about?
It's because it's ever fresh, Maharaj.
Oh,
Every time is like the first time.
okay, I get it. I get it. Okay. This is fun today okay. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for class.
Harbo,
Haribol.
where's
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
She's just getting ready for work.
Okay, Harbo.
Haribol.
Anybody else say
Hare
hello?
Krishna Guru Maharaj. Narmasak is here.
Oh, where are you in your farm?
Thank-
Or you're in?
No, I just, today, 2 hours ago, I came to Tehran to be in Janmashtami. Janmashtami is on Friday here because
Janmashtami or
Friday,
Radha?
I'm sorry, Janmashtami, Radhashtami, yeah.
Will you
Yeah.
see Siddheshri at all when you're there?
I might see her today or tomorrow.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Nice to hear
I
from
will
you.
surely do. Thank you for the class, Guru.
Okay, I'm still praying I may one day come to your country.
Mm. Yeah, we do. We pray also, Guru
One
Maharaj.
day, I'm afraid. Anybody else say hello today?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Krishna-katha. Thank you so much for the class. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you so much. Good. Okay, one more?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Hemala Tarada. Thank you so much for class.
Haribo, Haribo,
Hare
Haribo.
Krishna Maharaj.
Okay. All right, I'm going to look at the list and see all the people that came today. Thank you all. Appreciate it so much. Panchakalpa Turu.